CFU Market Insights for January 13th. Today, we're going to be talking about technology, geopolitics, and parallel systems. Our core thesis that we have for 2026 is that we are entering an era when the world is being remade, just fundamentally, structurally, not just cyclical. Industrial, computational, and financial systems are all facing redesign. And today, we're going to cover off exactly how we see that happening. First off, Lisa Su, CEO of AMD in CES 2026 said AI is not hype. That when we started this era of ChatGPT in 2023, we were at exaflops, and now we're getting into zettaflops. And by the year 2031, we will have 10 yottaflops. Now, if you don't know what a yottaflop is, I'm with you. I have no idea what that meant until I heard her say it. I didn't know numbers could go this high, so let's find out. So we're entering the era of the yottaflop, so get used to that word. The global AI compute, 100 times growth from one zettaflop. That's what we had in 2022. And now, here today in 2026, 4 years later, we're at 100 zettaflops. And by the year 2031, we'll have 10 yottaflops. Well, one exaflop is 10 to the power of 18 operations per second. Don't be thinking this is in your GPU or your little CPU that you have. This is global, worldwide computational power. We are at 100 zettaflops. One yottaflop is 1 million exaflops. The number is 10 to the power of 24 operations per second of every single day. Now, what this is going to create is this is going to create a computational bottleneck. And this is where TSMC comes into play. And this is one of the stocks that I personally hold. And when people ask, what's a really good stock I should be getting into? I like to talk about TSMC. Now, they do have an international factor or risk that you need to be taking into account because they are over in Asia. But TSMC has committed to build 5 new Arizona fabs. That's fantastic. And if you don't know anything about TSMC, this is the one thing you need to know. If you think NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, Broadcom, et cetera, are making their chips, you are incorrect. They design the chips. They all go through, and we're also including Apple in that too. So Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom, the list goes on. They all use TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, to fabricate their chips for them. They are the one and only company that's able to do the smallest nanometer chips at the highest production rates at the lowest cost. They have a massive monopoly and moat in this area. Very few other companies are able to fabricate chips this well. In fact, I don't know of any other. And if I did know of another, I would invest in them. So this is exciting. They're going to build 5 new Arizona fabs. This is good for the United States, bringing manufacturing home, and they get to get around the tariff. That's really great. And that's good IP to have inside the border. All right. So as we are able to increase our ability to fabricate semiconductors, that means we're able to use more semiconductor chips. Well, we already have an insatiable demand and flavor for these chips. One really good example that I want to talk about are the Optimus robots that we are going to get from Tesla in 2026 for manufacturing and in 2027 or 2028 for the consumer. One of the cool things that Tesla is doing is if you think about an actuator, a robot has a lot of actuators. Well, there are lots of actuators in a robot. If you think about what they have to do, rotate, push, pull all day long. These guys went from 40 actuator designs down to 6. This is a huge monumental feat because now they don't have to manufacture 40 different types of actuators. They only need to have 6 different types of actuators, and then they can start to put them all over in the different components of that same robot. This means less manufacturing cost and complexity and makes it easier for Tesla to scale up the robots that they're going to be manufacturing in mass and deploying to manufacturing and then eventually consumers as well. One cool thing about a Tesla robot, think about this use case that you could have. It prolongs quality of life for the elderly. If you have one of these in your home, that Tesla robot can take care of you and it can extend how long you can stay in your home. That feeling of autonomy and living on your own is valuable for anyone who is elderly or you have a grandparent. Ask them, what would it be like to be living in your house a little bit longer and having a robot to tend to every need that you have? It's a big lifesaver. And that says nothing about what you would see here in the image that you have on your screen with a robot making an engine or any other manufacturing job that we have today. Maybe they could go work at the TSM factory in Arizona. Another cool development that's happened this week as well is the regulatory rules for robotaxis getting cleared up. What this means is they're going to allow Tesla and anyone else who wants to get into the cyber cab or autonomous driving space to deploy up to 90,000 autonomous vehicles each year. Right now, that is limited at 2,500. So, but now they're going to allow them to deploy up to 90,000 each. This is fantastic news for Tesla because they already have the mass production capability of producing all of these cybercabs. Nobody else can do it as quickly as Tesla can do it. Not only that, their production costs are going to be very low. They only cost $30,000 per vehicle. And when they are doing autonomous driving, taxi cab, moving people around, they're getting 90% profit on the revenue that they bring in off of that. What this is also very important too is that they get more FSD miles. The race for autonomous driving is as much about the technology of how does a car drive as it is about the data set. How many autonomous miles does your data set have? Tesla is about to come up to 10 billion miles of FSD. Nobody else comes close to them on this. And that's a huge moat that Tesla has and that the other companies, if they're going to get in the space, will have to cross at some point. Thinking about Mercedes and NVIDIA, you don't have anything comparable to what Tesla is delivering. Okay, so all of this makes us wonder, how are we going to power, where are we going to put all these data centers? How are we going to get to this 10 yottaflop? We're going to come to a point where we have to get data centers into space. Now, I know this sounds like science fiction, and to some degree it is science, but it's less fictiony and it's more reality than we are. The reality is we have to get into space. And the cool thing is we know what our escape velocity is, and I'll get to that in a second here. The reason why we need to get into space, think about the benefits of having a large data center in space. First off, it's free energy. All you have to do is have a solar panel that's big enough and it's directed towards the sun and it stays in orbit and it powers the GPUs all day long. What else do we need? We need cooling. Well, in space, can you think of any other place in the entire universe that's colder than space? We can use space to cool the GPUs and the system all day long. No problem with that. In fact, it might be too cold. So they might have to have some cooling and regulation put into place to make sure the system doesn't freeze over. Next, and this is a cool one too, there's no permits. You don't need a permit to go into space, or if you do, it's very cheap and you're going to have no competition to get that permit. You just need to make sure you're not going to knock into a satellite. But in terms of land, you don't even have to pay for the land. Just get up there. That's the only barrier of escape, not so much of an entry as an escape. It's the only barrier of escape is you got to get up there. Once you do, you're set. Those GPUs will run around the clock, fully powered, fully cooled, and you don't have any complaints from neighbors. Nobody complaining about the noise. Nobody complaining about, hey, I have this data center in my backyard. I don't want that. Take it to space then. So what is that escape velocity? It's an economic number. It's $300 per kilogram. If you can find a way to get a kilogram into space for $300 or less, you're going to space. That's about the number that they think it would take in order to be economically viable to get up into space, stay in space, and make the system run. The only player who has a chance at this at any time soon is SpaceX. So taking this all into account, this is exactly why I want shares in SpaceX. It's going to be the game changer. And all of the semiconductors, the GPUs, the AI data centers, they're all going to come to SpaceX and say, I need to get this system into space. And they're the only ones who can do it. When trust breaks, this is another thing that happened today that I think is going to show everyone just how viable and important Bitcoin is. For those who are in the CFU Discord, you know already I'm a huge proponent of Bitcoin. I hold a lot of Bitcoin as it is right now. I sell some covered calls here and there, but I normally keep it covered so we got a good upside potential with Bitcoin, because when it breaks and it goes to the roof, like it did on the Iranian Rial, I think it is, or what is this thing called? IRR? I don't know. It doesn't matter because it's dead. Trust broke in Iran. their currency went to nothing. And in terms of Bitcoin, it has skyrocketed to an amazing $104 billion. And I don't even think it's done there. I think it's going to keep on running. It should get into the trillion. And it's just going to be like, you know what? It's done. Think of it though from an Iranian standpoint. This is multiple lifetimes of savings of the average Iranian income. Just gone overnight. You can look at the chart right there. It's gone. It literally went to the moon, speaking of space. Think about the hyperinflation life raft that Bitcoin can have for you. If an Iranian had bought even just a little bit of Bitcoin, they would be much better off than saving all of their money in that fiat currency that we don't even care about any longer. I love this infographic. This is courtesy of Gemini Notebook LM. This is a fantastic AI tool that I've come across lately. You put in all the parameters, the prompt that you're going to want to have it do, and it comes up with an infographic for you. I love this. So it says here, your savings in cash is kind of like an ice that's being melted away, and it just becomes nothingness. It evaporates over time. And it also states here that these are the other countries that in the last 5 years have also ran into similar problems where their currency has gone to literally nothing. Turkey, Argentina, Lebanon. Ask anyone from those countries and they'll all be able to say, yeah, our currency went to nothing, hyperinflation came in, or there was some sort of loss of trust and their currency went to nothing. But Bitcoin stood, and Bitcoin stands, and it'll always be a life raft for all of us. When capital seeks value, it's going to be going to Bitcoin. Okay, now that's our update for today. You can kind of see how all of those things work together. It's pretty fun. Now I'm going to give you the trades that we entered into or exited at CFU. The trades we closed for profit today, we got out of our Google PCS. We closed that off and we got a 67% return. And with Moderna, we got a 90% return. We were able to close off that long call at the 1345 to 1355 range. Some members were getting off at 1350. That was a 90% return. Thank you, Kyle, for giving us that trade. The new positions that we opened today. So with speaking about Bitcoin, we did open up we sold additional contracts at the 54 covered call. So we additionally opened up 1/3 of our position with a covered call. Now we've gone up to a half of our position on Bitcoin. We've sold the 54 call option on that. That's expiring this Friday. Hopefully we'll be coming just right about there, maybe a little under, maybe a little over 54. I've been checking the chart right now on my phone. It looks like Bitcoin's ripping to the upside, which is great to see. We also entered into a new position on Budweiser Anheuser-Busch, and we opened that one up in the 870 to 880 range. Some nice high liquidity on that. That was really good. So hopefully we get the desired result that we need on that trade. Again, that was another Kyle trade. Awesome insight on that. And we're looking forward to seeing how that one produces results for us. We're going to finish off with the one stock that I really want a nice solid long position in, and that's Google or Alphabet. It has some killer potential in the next few years. And I think everyone's starting to catch on because I wish they didn't, because I wish I could get in at a cheaper price, but they got the results as a service. We covered this before. This is when you pay for the result, not a subscription as a service or software as a service. You're only paying for the result when you get the desired result. And I think Google's going to have a great run at this. I think also XAI is going to have a good run at this with macro hard. If you don't know what I'm talking about with macro hard, Google it and just see why that is so important. It's an Elon Musk initiative, and I think it's going to turn the industry on its head. They also have a 7% stake in SpaceX. So that was a very intelligent move on their part so they can use that leverage to get into space with their GPUs or TPUs. Gemini AI, which we've all been using, and its fantastic model. And last but not least, let's give a little kudos to Buffett, Warren Buffett. That was his last buy. The guy never goes wrong. He was buying in like the 260, 270, 280 range, and look at this thing already flying off. Anyways, what I'm thinking about doing with Google, and I'm just kind of toying with the idea, I don't know if I'm going to pull it off or not, but doing a PCS, like an out of the money PCS where I'd be willing to buy Google, or I might just go for a straight cash secured put. Everyone, that's our show for today. If you're curious to learn more about Cashflow University or CFU, we have a Discord service for traders, a website, a blog, and a newsletter, all focused on this central theme of making you money, making you profitable and wealthy. That's our show for today. I'm Stephen from Cashflow University. If you're curious to learn more about our services, head on over to joincfu.com. We have a Discord for traders, a blog, and a newsletter, and we'd love to have you join our trading team. That's it for today.